Can you hear me?
Yeah, Pratap, I can hear you.
Yeah, Ram. Good evening, Ram. Ram, on small request, Ram, I already requested you. I received the document, but the document contain very high-level information about that roles and scope roles, normal roles and scope roles. So, can you give some documents which is related to your ideas and thoughts, like in your with your explanation, so that it will helpful for to understand
No,
very
Pratap, I
easily.
can only give you high level notes. So if you want to take notes, then you have to take yourself maybe, to your understanding of what it is. I cannot prepare, detail level. I don't know what level you want.
It's not like a
Uh,
detail. Just see, I can see like a one or two lines in that like normal roles or scope roles. If you could give some lines, like at least some code, so it will helpful for in future to understand more.
no,
So that's
the
it.
problem is, see, for the detailed ones, right? So we have the SAP help documentation, and wherever it is required, for example, we are going to see one concept, we have not seen it yet. Uh, there is a concept for scheduling, right? So there we use something called as cron schedule or cron script, right? So for that, there is no proper explanation in the help documentation. There maybe, I have a detailed explanation there. So whenever it's required, I think I have detailed explanation. And then like we have high level notes on what's being covered every day. But yeah, for each and every topic that we are covering in the video, we cannot have text descriptions of what's happening in the entire session. So I would
Yeah.
encourage you. You can have a maybe a note for personal self, and then maybe if it's useful, you can share among yourselves, etc.
Hey Ram, Bhakta here. Is
Yeah,
it possible for us to give some exercises for practice?
yeah, sure, sure. So we have only seen space, so I have not given exercises. From
Yeah.
today, you will be having exercises.
Yeah, in that we can add some cheat notes there that will help us to quickly get up to speed.
Okay, so today's
Exercise.
session, maybe you see that, and then let's see if what do you mean by notes? Because today's session again, I have some text. So
You don't need to
let's
give
see.
all the detail, Ram. See, anyway we are preparing exercise, right? It's some quick
Mhm.
notes on that one that will help us to follow easily.
Yeah, so let's see the today's session, and then let's see.
Yeah, that will be great. Yeah,
Can
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hello Ram, this is Hanit. Am I audible?
Hello. Yeah, you're hearable.
Yeah, Ram. Actually, I have one more question. Like, can we add one space to multiple support roles, like same space to multiple roles, like a consumer, like support
Yes.
sign? Okay,
Yes.
same
So
space to
any number
multiple
of
roles. Is
users
it
can be
possible?
added to a scoped role. Same way, any number of spaces can be added to a scoped role. So they all have a many to many relationship. So same scoped role you can add to multiple spaces. See, the only thing is, at certain times, what we do is, for every space, in general, we create three types of roles at the space level itself. For example, you have a finance space. So for finance space, it's a good practice to create 3 levels of roles. So one is you can create a space administrator, finance space administrator, finance space viewer, and then finance space modeler, right? So that is some practice some customers are doing in each space level. They define 3 or more roles for admin, view, and modeling, right? Whereas there are other customers who are like, okay, so in general, we'll keep the admin and modeler roles common because admin team and modeling team are working on multiple areas. And then they'll keep the viewer role or the consumer role space specific because the security team and the admin team, they may be common, like technical folks who are working on multiple spaces. So instead of creating multiple roles, they'll keep that common. Whereas the consumers, maybe, yeah, they need to have data access control and everything restricted. So maybe the consumer role, they'll keep it at the space level. So it depends how the business wants to do it. But yeah, so the concept wise, you can have any number of users in a scoped role. Same way, the same scoped role can be added to any number of spaces. And in a space, you can add any number of scoped roles also. So they all have multiple many to many relationships.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so I think we can get started for today's session. Yeah, anyone else? Any questions before we start?
Ram, otherwise, what you can do is, Ram, this is my small session. While preparing that exercises, you can put links there for SAP notes. That will help us we can go to that SAP help and then understand that in detail.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that
do
is easy. Okay, thank you.
We'll do that. Okay, so let me share my screen. Please, one of you confirm if you can see my screen.
And Ram, there's one small question. Like for the space stations, there is some HDI containers for enabling access, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Can you show me that some brief also, if possible?
Yeah, we'll see that. We have a couple of more topics like connecting the external tools and all. In that session, we'll see that. So for now, we just created a space so that we can directly go to the data builder. But later sessions, we have planned for that specifically the database level access to a space. And the HDA container also is covered as part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so now I am sharing 2 important links. I think most of you might already have it, but if not, yeah, here are the 2 links. So the first link is to a Google Drive, right? So where I'll be sharing any files that are required, like certificate files that needs to be uploaded in Datasphere, etc. So I will also add any data files that are required, but mostly we'll not be using the files. We'll be seeing direct connections and we'll be getting data from BW system or any other systems. So in the initial stages, when you are understanding what the concepts are, and when I'm giving exercise to you or something, if you want to try something quickly, then you can use this data files. So it doesn't mean that we are only going to work with files. So any files or anything I want to share with you, I'll put it inside this Google Drive and then you can get it from there. The other thing is, the course, the notes, so which are the topics we are covering for the day. And also, so now as per the suggestion, so I will also add some links which are helpful here. And one more thing is I might sometime give you some exercises. So in the exercises we'll be discussing directly during the session, right? And then whatever we worked on, I'll give you some assignments and they're optional, like it's for your understanding. You can do it, and then if you have questions you can ask me in the next session. Okay, so today we are going to cover the foundations of the data builder. So far we have seen what is a space and creating a space and so on. So the space is required to do anything in Datasphere, right? So this space is kind of the basic thing or the database schema that is required to create any other object. So once the space is created, we can start creating other objects both in data builder and business builder. So we have the two builders in DataSphere, right? So one is called data builder, the other is called business builder. So the idea why DataSphere is designed like this is to support two personas or two types of users, right? So the first type of users are like the technical people, or people like us who are consultants and whose job is to connect different systems, get the data, get it in raw format, and then check the quality and then transform it, make it ready for, or make it make it suitable for reporting. So that type of users who would like to get their hands dirty and do the low level design till the high level design, they are supposed to work on the data builder. Generally the IT, the technical consultants, they work in the data builder. Now, going to the business builder, SAP also wanted to create a tool which is kind of self-service. So the idea behind that is, for example, traditionally SAP tools were somewhat complicated, right? So if you or me or anyone or even a small kid, if they want to order something in a site like Amazon, they can easily order it, right? So they see a lot of things, they can filter, they can go to a particular product, they can add it to the cart, they can specify the quantity, they can select address, make payment, and then that's it. It gets delivered. Whereas if you think about SAP system, if you have to do the same thing, right, for a business, if you have to order some raw material or if you have to ship something, then the amount of screens that are involved and the logic in which you know maintain a material master and then you order something, all that in the traditional SAP tools were a bit complicated and they were not like self-serviceable, or at least they require the users to be trained a lot before they can start using it. And the same was true for the data warehousing space also. We had tools like SAP BW in the data warehousing space, where again, an end user cannot directly, open the system one day and right away they understand everything. No, it was not self-serviceable. They do not understand what's a query or even which tool to use to build a query and so on. The tooling was also very complicated. You have to install certain, a bunch of tools. There is SAP Logon, there is Bex Query Designer, and then there is Bex Analyzer. So there were so many tools also. So it's kind of confusing and it's not readily self-serviceable. Any business user cannot just go into the system and start creating things on their own. They at least require some level of training. But now as SAP is coming into this cloud space, so cloud is like everyone wants to have certain kind of experience which they have in other sites. If they use Amazon or Flipkart or any other shopping sites, they have a level of experience, right? They can do certain things just given. Like no one had trained anyone on how to use Amazon. It was intuitive, right? So same way, SAP also wanted to make the data warehousing very intuitive, and that's why the business builder was born. So the idea is, here the users who are going to create things, they need not have to know, okay, where the data is coming from, like what is the source of the data, were there any data quality issues, should I have to do some harmonization. All that is already taken care of the people who have done certain things in the data builder level, right? So now everything is ready, and the only thing the business, if you are not speaking, can you go on mute please? Any questions? Thank you. Yeah. So now in the business layer, the business users can directly do the high level modeling themselves for their reporting needs. So that's the categorization between the data builder and business builder. So in a typical project, most of the time will be spent on the data builder, and maybe some time you will spend on business builder to create certain objects for the business. But most of the time, the targeted work, like your day-to-day activity, 80% of it will be in the data builder. So data builder is very important. So today's session, we are going to talk about what is data builder and what are all the different things you can do in a data builder. And for that, the primary understanding I want you to have is what are tables and what are views, right? Before we even jump into the tool, I want to discuss on what are table and what are views. So maybe let's hear it from you. So anyone wants to tell me like what is a table, what is a view, etc. From a database perspective in general.
Table is the one which persists in
Certain
data.
columns.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Table
Yeah,
is
so-
a physical structure
Mhm.
where we hold the data. And
Mhm.
views is a virtual structure that represent the table.
Perfect.
Which,
Yes.
which stores
So-
the data in the rows and tables format.
In tables, yes, we do store the data. So one difference I got from all of you is that table stores data. Views, they are virtual. They do not directly store data. So any other differences? Okay, storage perspective, now we are done. Yes, that's the difference. So any other differences? Okay, let me rephrase my question, right? So now when I asked what is a table, what is a view, you have clearly explained. Now my question is, why do you require a view, right? So you already have a table, there is data in it. Why do you require a view on top of that?
View contain multiple tables we can join.
Yes, so view can
You can
contain
edit-
data from multiple tables. Yes.
You can also edit the view, but underlying table cannot be, I mean, mostly will not be edited.
You can edit the view in the sense.
I mean, you can add calculated columns. You could add,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, you can
projections,
change the
you could hide
structure of
columns.
the
Yeah.
view.
You
Yes.
could hide some columns, not required, if not required. But underlying table is a persistent structure. You may not, I mean, you can, technically you can, but generally in a project, you will not go and edit the main table itself.
Yes. Okay. Any other points? Why we require a view?
We can
Yeah,
maintain
so
the
two-
aggregated data also.
Yes, we can maintain aggregation also. So basically, the idea behind the view is like all you said. We can get the data from multiple tables, not necessarily join. You can also do union, right? So you can get data from multiple tables or multiple views also. So a view can get consolidated view of different things, right? So I want to look at business in a holistic view. I can get data from multiple tables and views. That's one thing. Other thing is I can create additional columns. So if I want to do some calculation, if I want to call a function, if I want to do some aggregation, group by, all those things I can do in a view. I can directly do from a table also. Like if I'm a SQL expert, I can write a SQL to do join, to do union, everything. But the idea is for someone who doesn't know the SQL, can we create a very simple structure that just looks like a table, but it is not a table, it's a complicated or very complex query, right? So if I am a database expert, yes, and I know that if the data is stored in 3 tables, I can write a select statement, I can join all the 3 tables in runtime and I can get the data. But for someone who does not know, who knows very basic SQL, he can select certain columns and data from a table, but he cannot do joins, he cannot do unions, he cannot do aggregation, all that. Then for he or she, a view is very helpful because now for them the view becomes the source, and for them the view just looks like a table. It has a lot of columns. Some of the columns are directly coming from a table. Some of the columns may be calculated, but for the consumer of the view is very simple. Right? So for that perspective, yes, we are adding a view, and also in a view level, you can control the data access as well. For example, in a view level, if I put a var condition and if I'm extracting only var country equal to USA, then that means whoever sees the data from this view are only going to see the USA data, right? Like that, if I want to do, I can also do access control in a view level. So basically, that's why we require a view. Now let's again discuss the differences between a table and view. What do you think is a key difference when it comes to performance when you access data from a table, when you access data from a view? What do you think is the key difference in performance? Anyone? Which do you think is faster, table or view?
Table.
Okay.
Yes,
Anyone
in
else?
view, yes. In view, if we are joining different tables, and depending upon the select statement, the performance can be deteriorated. But in a table, if you are exposing a table from directly table, it will your performance very fast.
Yes. So any other differing opinion? Anyone says view can be faster too? Okay, then there is no competition, right? Like everyone is saying that the table can be faster because it directly stores the data and then it can retrieve it. Whereas a view, it is a collection of data from multiple tables and it can take some time to scan all those tables, get the data, and then consolidate it and show to the user. So views, actually it depends on the situation. Sometimes table can be slower, views can be faster, because in the view you might have a lot of restriction and it's only getting few records, and if there are proper indexes then it may be faster than a table, but that's very rare. Like you said, table is much faster for direct data accessing compared to a view. Now that becomes a bottleneck for a view, right? So for the business, generally if you say there is some bad thing, then question from business will be, how do you avoid it, right? So now we are saying that comparative to table, a view offers a lot of benefits, like it consolidates multiple tables, it can have calculated columns, it can help us in data access control. But we are saying the business, it can have performance problems. So the question from business is, how do you avoid it? So anyone, so if we want to improve performance of a view, how
You
do you
can
do that?
persist the view.
Exactly. So you can persist the view, right? So this has been done traditionally in all the databases, and even in SAP products. We do different things, like we materialize the view, we create aggregated cubes. So if we store the data physically, then yes, that can improve the performance, because then at runtime it doesn't have to do the join, it doesn't have to do the calculation, it can do it already and it can store the data, and it just in the runtime it just has to view, read the data and show it to the user, right? So what is the drawback in that approach, persisting the data?
You might not have the latest data unless you have run the persistence again. So your table might got updated, but you still have to.
Exactly. So you lose the real-time access to data. So whenever you query a table or whenever you execute a view directly, you will get the latest data. View is nothing but a stored select statement. So if you just call a normal view, you always get the latest data in the table. Whereas if you make it a materialized view, which is persisting a view, then you are not getting the latest data. You are getting the data as of the last persisted time, right? So in situations where real-time data access is not very critical for the business, whereas performance is very critical for the business, you can go for a persisted view, right? So now we have seen three different things, right? So one is a table. So all of you told me what is a table. It is the foundational or fundamental data object in a database, and the data is stored in rows and columns, and it physically stores the data. And typically, you will not only read, but you can also insert, update, and delete in a table, right? Whereas in a view is nothing but a saved SQL statement, right? And then it does not store the data physically, and it is useful for simplifying complex queries where you told everything, like join, union, data access control, and all those things, calculated columns, aggregated columns. So all that is view, and we saw what is the key difference between table and view, and we also saw the performance aspect of it, and how to avoid those challenges is by materializing the view, which means making the view persistent, making the view store the data, right? So now I have a table where all the differences are explained. So purpose of each of them. So tables, the primary purpose is storing data. View, the primary purpose is accessing the stored data from table. Whereas in a materialized view, the primary purpose is for performance. both table and materialized view, they store data physically, whereas a normal view doesn't store. The table is the original source of data, whereas both views and materialized views, they are derived from a table or a collection of table or views. Data refresh for a table, it's not required or it's not applicable because insert data directly to a table. So the once you commit it, the table is up to date. Whereas the view also doesn't require a data refresh because always when you call a view, it executes the SQL and you get the latest data. Whereas in a materialized view or a persisted view, you have to run a periodic refresh or else the data will get outdated. Right? So that's very important when you talk about materialized view. And coming to performance, yes, a table can be fast for direct access, whereas a view can be slow due to type of query we have written. And materialized view can make a view faster because of the persistence. Now, the general use cases, tables can be used for anything, basically for storage. So you can use it for any purpose. Whereas view, yes, it is to simplify the data access. It is to give a very table-like structure for a complex query for the end users and also for data security. Whereas a materialized view, it's the primary use case is for reporting systems and also for performance. Right? So why do we have to understand all this is we are now going into DataSphere and we are going to see a lot of things. We are going to see what are tables and what are views there. And without this, fundamental understanding, I tend to see that people getting confused because a lot of options will be very similar in a table. And then again, when we go to views, they also look a lot similar. So this is very critical for you to understand. So any questions here? What is a table? What's a view? What is a persistent view?
Maybe Ram, you could also add the remote table because that will be also discussed a couple of times.
Yes, so we will discuss that there. So we will when talking about remote table, virtual table, we'll talk about what's happening there. But yeah, good point. I'll also add like whenever is required in the notes. So yes. Okay, now let's go to the data builder. So when you go to a data builder and it will automatically open in the last used space. So the last time when you are doing something in a space across any of these apps, right? So all of these are called apps. So in the data builder, if I am leaving it in the demo space and if I go to business builder, automatically it will be in my space, right? So if I ever want to switch a space, then I can click here and then I can see all the spaces in which I have access and then I can select a particular space. Right. So always verify that you are in the right space before editing anything. Right. So because sometimes what people tend to do is they tend to do edits in a wrong space. And then there are two problems. Now you have to fix the edits in the wrong space and you have to redo the edits in the right space. Right. So it's always crucial to look at the space, make it a thumb rule before you click create button or edit button. Make it a thumb rule to check the space here or in the URL and then make sure that that is the space you want to edit. And now SAP has added one more thing because now people are making mistakes even in the system level. Like instead of editing in development, they have they might edit in quality system and they might edit in production system. Ideally speaking, you have to have roles in such a way that you can only make edits in development, and in the role level itself, it should restrict you from making edits in a quality or production system. That's the ideal thing. But even if you have access, then you should make sure you are editing in the right system. For that, SAP has one new feature. I think it's the system information feature. Where you can add a banner at the top so that you will not make any mistake. So what happens is if you add this banner, it will always keep showing at the top. For example, let's add it. So if you see here, now irrespective of where I am, so just like I said, you can verify the space. You can also verify which system. So I cannot make a mistake. Like I want to edit in development, but I edited it in quality or something like that. So that is a feature under system configuration and system information. So you can decide, what is, so in each system you have to do this. So if this is my development system, I can go here and then I can say development, and it will always show this banner called development here. In my other tab, if I have another system open, there I can say it is test or production or anything. That gives you a visual idea of which system, and you can avoid certain errors. This is a very minor feature, but yeah, it's sometimes it's good to have features like this. So I'll turn it off because it's kind of wastes our vertical space. So I'll turn this off. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know these are two common mistakes that people make. So one is editing in the wrong system, that very rarely people make, but the other common mistake is they edit in the wrong space. So just make sure you are in the right space. Okay. So now we are inside a space.
I have a question. Sorry, dev QA production are having different multiple tenants or different tenants, or they are in the same tenant? Dev QA.
They'll be in multiple tenants.
Okay. So we will transport the package or development which we have done in development to QA and then production.
Yes, we have separate sessions on that in details.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Ram, in single space, multiple resources can work, right?
Meaning?
Meaning multiple developers.
Multiple people. Okay. Yeah. In a single space, multiple people can work simultaneously. But in a single object, yeah, multiple people cannot work. So if I open something and if I'm editing it, and if you try to open it, it will show a banner saying that I am editing it to you.
Is there any version control here?
Yes, we'll see that. It is there in the business builder. So we'll see that what type of version control exists. Yeah.
So one more question: Can we make a production system as read only the way we do in BW? The production is just on read only, and dev and QA we transport from dev to QA to production. But the BW,
no, there is no comparable feature like the SAP on-prem systems. The only thing is you have to control through the roles.
Okay. There is no such as a distinguish as we do in BW system. Read only is access given to production system.
Yes.
Okay.
So no comparable feature there. Yes. Okay. So now coming to the data builder. So here is how it is, visually. So there are two halves. So the top half is where you can select the different objects. So we are in the section called all files. So here it basically lists all the things that you can do in the data builder. So initially it can kind of look overwhelming, but eventually you will understand each one of this in very detailed form and you will understand what they are. But for now, I'll just walk you through a simple definition of what they are. If it is kind of hazy, don't worry. When we talk about that particular topic, it will become more clear to you. And yeah, don't go into too much details in the question because you might already know it or you might have already used it, but for some of them, it might be the first time they are seeing it. So I would say, please be with me and don't get into too much details. Each of them will go into the detailed session. At that time, yeah, you can shoot your questions. So now in all files, it will list everything you can do in the data builder. Whereas there are different sections. For example, if I go to tables, then it will show me in the bottom, it is showing me only the tables in this space, right? If I go to views, it will show me only the views in this space. Same way, if I go to any option, then it will show me only that particular object in our space. And in the top, we'll always have an option to create new. So in views, I have create new graphical view, create new SQL view. In table, I have create new table, like that. And also here, I have a button for creating. So irrespective of where I am, right? So where I am is just like applying a filter, right? So it is applying a filter on the type of object it is showing. Right? So if I go to the filters, here also I can filter. I have different filters also here. So I can go and I can say, just show me my objects, because sometimes people can share objects with other people from one space to another space. So I can just say, I want to see only my objects, meaning the objects I am owner of. Or I can also, sometimes I might want to see, I want to see only shared objects where someone has shared from another space, etc. So like that, we have filter in the side, but also if I go to, some spaces, automatically certain things it is filtering. So when I go to table, you see that automatically it filters, local table and remote table. So if I go to view, it automatically filters view, right? Like that, it's doing nothing more but applying a filter to my objects. Whereas here I have a create button where it is not filtered and all. You can create anything that you can create in a data filter, right? So I can create a local table, I can create a view, or I can create anything irrespective of which tab I am putting this. So sometimes, people get confused. They ask, okay, I am in ER diagram only. Why is this showing everything? Because when you click these options, the only thing that it is doing is it is adding a filter here. So it is saying, okay, so I want to see only tables, I want to see only views, like that. So other than that, it's not touching any of these buttons. So here we have a couple of buttons. So one is the search box, right? So it's the space. Okay, so I have many things here, right? And I suddenly want to go and find a table related to process chain, right? So I can search and it will list all the values. Or in this search itself, it will directly show me some results. And if I click the result, it will directly take me to that particular object, right? So if I want to jump directly to an object, yes, I can do that. Or if I want to search everything that starts with the the process, then I can just simply say search and it'll return all the results. So that's the search box at the top. And then we have a create button. Like I said, if I want to create something, I can directly start from here. I can also start from the top. These are also create buttons. So if I want to create a table, I can click this new table button, as well as I can go here and I can click this local table button. Okay. Now here I have certain import options, right? So I can create a table from scratch. So I can say, start with the local table and I can start giving the table name, some columns and everything. On the other hand, I can import a CSV file or something, and then I can directly start building a table. Like that, we have several other import options as well. So we'll see one by one what they are. And other buttons are like we can edit certain information about an object. So I can click edit, and then it will allow us to edit that particular object. And we have delete button. So we can delete whatever we do not want. And we have deploy button. So we'll see what is save and deploy in a moment. But for now, there is deploy button. And then we have share button. By default, whatever you are creating in a space, it is only visible or accessible in that space. So whoever has, the scoped role to that space, they can view it. Or if they have enough scoped role, they can edit it as well. But it is constrained to one space. Now, at sometimes what happens is you might require one object in multiple spaces. So then what you can do is, so for example, if this table, it is in test space, right? So here it's showing test space. Now I want it in another space. Then what I can do is I can click the share button and then I can give, another space. For example, I have space called RAM. So I am going to share it with that RAM space and then I say share. And by default, you can only give the read access. If you want to edit it, you have to edit in the original space. In all the other spaces, it is shared. It is only readable. And the moment you share it, you will see this share icon appearing. That means it is already shared, right? And if I go to the shared space, for example, the RAM one, now I can not only see all the things that are native to this space, see in the space column, all of this are directly created in this space itself. Whereas this one particular item, again, we can identify it by the shared symbol, and also the space name is different, right? So this is something that is coming in from a different space. Like this, you can share it from multiple spaces. And then to organize things, if we keep adding everything directly to the space itself, it becomes very dirty very quickly. So we have folder structures. So you can create folders and then you can add things like, okay, I am going to add all things related to process chains in a particular folder. So I create a folder called process chain. Now I have a table which is outside that folder. So if I want to move it inside, so okay. So this is a shared space. So I'll go back to my original space, test. So here I want to organize things, right? So I am creating a folder and I can call it process chain. And I want to move the objects inside that folder. What I can do is I can select it. And then we have this button, which is called move button. So we can move it and we can select the folder inside our space. And then I can just say move. And then it will be moved to that particular folder. So you can create, folder within a folder. You can have any number of nested folders. So inside this, I can create active files and development files. I can have 2 folders. And so when I'm creating new things, so if I'm already inside a folder, for example, so if I try to create a table here, let me just add 2 random columns and let me try to save it, deploy and save. We'll see the difference. So now you see automatically it is not only showing the space, it is also showing my folder, because that is the folder from where I try to create this. So it is context sensitive. So it already understands the folder. But sometimes you might want to save it in a different folder. That also you can do. So even though I started the table from process chain, I can also go into the active files folder and then I can save it there. So that's how you organize things within a space. Let me again go back and let's talk about the remaining buttons. Okay, so I have a table here or a view here, right? So in this, I want to check what are the, so far we have not connected a lot of things. But yeah, let me try to copy this. And then if I want to create a duplicate of it, I can give it a different name. And then I can say, okay. And then I'll get a duplicate created. Why would I want to do that? Maybe, at times I want to copy a table or at times I want to copy a view. Then it's a simple way to copy like this. And then maybe whatever modifications I want, I can do the modifications to that. So that is the copy button. It's more like duplicate button. It's not like you can copy from one place and then paste it in another place. It's just like duplicate and it duplicates it. Right? And if I don't want it, I can just delete it. And then we have the dependency analysis button. So far, we have not created a lot of dependent objects. So once we create a lot of dependent objects, we'll understand this better. But for now, I'll just open it anyway, and then I'll show it how it looks like. So you see here, we have a view, and that is getting data from a table. So they both are dependent objects. That's what the system is showing. So when you create a lot of dependency, for example, if this view is joining 2-3 tables, and then this view is consumed by another view or another analytic model or something, then we'll see a bigger picture and we'll understand, okay, which of the objects depend on each other.
So
So that's dependence.
in that lineage, is it column level lineage or is it just view level lineage?
So yeah, we will see that. So I want to, it is like only the object level lineage, but it will also help you to understand the column level lineage. But we'll see that in a bit. So at the overall, this diagram that appears, it is just the object level lineage. And it will also, so it is very closely integrated to SAC. So when we start creating SAC stories and all, they will also appear here. So it's not like it will show only lineage of the DataSphere objects. It can also show the lineage up to the SAC level. So we'll also see that later. And then we have the sort button. So sometimes I want to sort by the modification date, name, or anything. We can apply the sort. And here there are only few columns that are visible by default. But sometimes maybe I want to know who created this object, right? I want to add additional columns. I can go here and then I can add the columns and it will then add the extra columns. There are a lot of extra columns here. If you want to add certain things, you can add it. And then you have two views. So this is the tabular view, which is better, but some people like it in the list view. So if you want list view, you can switch here, or you can go back to tabular view. So that is basically the various options in the data builder and from a navigational perspective. Now we'll go into details of each of that and we'll start creating it. The very first thing we are going to create is a table. So before that, any questions on the navigation aspects? Or do you want to have some time to play around with this? I don't think you don't have to spend any time now, because anyways, while doing other exercises, you will be using all these options. And at that time, if you have any questions, yeah, we can jump into that.
So Ram, this view options, I mean, the object options on the top, I think that will be role sensitive, right? For if you don't have a role for a integration kind of role, then you will not see replication flow, task chain.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you go to roles, so we'll have individual permissions, right? So if you don't have a create or read permission for a particular object, you will not have, you will not see that particular object. Let's go to roles, let's go to space administrator role. So you see all these permissions here, the different things. So I have, data builder level. So I have the read access and I have the update access and I have the execute access. So if I don't have that, I only have consume access, then I will not see certain things. And I have not seen it yet. So we also, okay. So we'll see that later. So we have a data access control also at role specific. So we'll see that later. But yeah, so it depends on the roles that you get access to certain things and you don't get access to other things. And one more thing I wanted to cover in space, which has been changed recently, which we didn't cover last time. So okay. So when you are in a space, for example, I have a space called round 1. So previously, we'll be able to edit the priority here itself. Now there is a new feature where you can maintain all the space priority at a central place, because previously it was difficult for a system administrator. So if there are 50 spaces and he has to do the space priority change, then he has to open each space individually and then he has to go here and change that. But now they have centralized it, and maybe in some time they might remove this option from here, because it now doesn't have much sense. It just is showing the information. Maybe they'll keep it for just showing the information, or they might remove it. But for now, it's not editable anymore from here. To edit the space priority, you have to go to configuration. And there itself, it was actually showing. So it is saying that go to system, configuration, and workload management. It's a system, configuration, and workload management. So here it will list you all spaces. Again, if you have write access only, you will get the configuration itself and then you can maintain this. So I can see all the spaces. By default, all spaces will have equal priority, which is 5. So what is this priority? Let's just go to one space and discuss about it a little bit. Right? So 1 is the lowest priority, meaning if there is a crunch of resources. So when we say resources, it's basically the number of work processes or number of threads and also the memory, right? So when there is a resource crunch, so when there is no resource crunch, this priority means nothing. If there is a resource crunch, then the jobs or tasks from which space should take the resources, and the jobs or tasks from which space should wait. The lowest priority will be made to wait, and the highest priority will get execution rates first, right? So by default, everything will be on the 5. And the SAP recommendation is that if there are technical spaces, like where you store audit information, log information, your technical objects, and things like that, then make them low priority, because when the system is free, maybe they can have the execution rights, and all the other things you keep it in the the normal 5 priority. And when you have business critical things, right, so a particular space is related to finance and now it's year end and they are doing some financial activity and you want to boost that space and you don't want any hiccups, then you can maybe put that space to the highest priority of 8. So that is the simplest way to maintain this. But if you want to go one level deeper and you want to control certain things, by default the workload configuration will be set to default. That means, okay, so let me click the button and I'll show what the default means. But in the meantime, let's also see what custom means. So if I go to custom, right, then I have 2 sliders which I can control, and they are controllable in 2 ways. So one is I can give absolute value and I can give percentage, right? So if I say 80%, this space can use 80% of the threads until it consumes 80%, it can freely get more and more threads assigned to it. Same way, memory also I can say, okay, it can get up to 80% of the system's memory. Again, this percentage doesn't take into account the priority. So if there are equal priority spaces, so if I have 2 spaces in high priority, then only this thread limit and all comes into picture. But yeah, if this priority is equal, then this thread limit doesn't affect, like all the jobs from that space are treated equally. Here, why do you have a limit is because to avoid one space consuming excessive amount of resources. By default, there are certain parameters that are set. So the default is the default configuration name, right? And it has admission control, meaning it will not admit if your space is sending more and more requests and the cloud system CPU is reaching a threshold of 90%. Right? So at that 90%, it will start putting your jobs on queue. Right? It will not directly run your jobs. It will start putting them on queue. And at 99% CPU utilization, it will start rejecting. It will not even put it on queue. It will start rejecting. And then the total statement limit is 70%. So this is the default profile, right? And then when you customize, you can set it to any level. But then all these are kind of advanced setting. So if you are an administrator and if you know what you're doing, then you can play around with that. Or the simplest thing that you can do is keep it in default work configuration. And if someone says, okay, so we are doing a year-end activity for finance, can you make the finance space faster or make it prioritized? Then all you have to do is go to that space, make it 8 and save it. Now that space will get priority over any other spaces. But if you have too many spaces set to 8, then that is basically waste, because then if there are jobs which are not significant running from another space, then the finance space is also 8, that other space is also 8, then the system will not know which one to prioritize. So that's why this 8 is reserved for very, very critical things and for time sensitive things. Only for this month, maybe finance is critical, or only for the first 5 business days, a particular space is critical, or only during year end, a particular space is critical. So reserve 8 for such purposes. And for anything else, so if something is always high priority, and you can keep something like 6 or 7, because generally all the spaces will be in 5. So if you keep something at 6, then it will typically have more priority than the other spaces. And then if you can set like 5-6 spaces at 6, and then you have 2 or 3 other spaces which are even more critical, you can set them at 7. But never set something at 8 and leave it for a long time, because then at time critical thing, you want to boost something quickly, then you have to go and fiddle around with a lot of spaces, bringing them down to 7 and so on. So my rule of thumb is like reserve 8, don't assign it to anything, play around with 6 and 7 for setting priority, and 8 is for very, very critical thing. and it is also for temporary boosting. So if someone says, okay, for the first 5 days or for a particular defined time, then at that point use the 8. That is clear, but yeah, we are not going into very details of it. If you are from admin side and if you are interested, then yeah, you can go ahead and you can read about this. And then there are also additional links from here and then documents from here which you can learn and understand. But yeah, from a higher level, you just need to know the priority number and how to use it. Okay. Now going back to space, one more question was there on that day. So the question was, so at multiple places, the data, the storage is shown in GB, MB, and KB, and at some places it is showed in GIB, right? GIB. So why is that? So in the system monitor, it was showing in GIB, and I also saw, I don't remember now, in a couple of other places also, it was showing in MIB or KIB and things like that. So what is the difference between GB and GIB, and why is this being used? So to answer simply, this is more precise. The GIB and MIB, they are more precise because the MB and GB that we are using it in the base of 10. So 10 to the power something, 10 to the power 3, 10 to the power 4, like that. But if you know, the computer store data in zeros and ones, right, in binary. So actually we should be doing 2 to the power of something. So 2 to the power of 30, 2 to the power of 10, 2 to the power of 20, or 2 to the power of something. If we are using that binary type of operations, and if we say a hard disk space, we should actually say it in GIB, that is 2 to the power of something. But traditionally, we are always saying the storage spaces in 10 to the power of something, right? So in MB or GB. The problem is when you say a hard disk is 1 terabyte, then what someone can assume is that it will be 1000 GB is 1 terabyte. Or someone might argue saying that no, 1024 GB is 1 terabyte, but both are wrong. It's not 1 terabyte, it's not 1000 GB. 1 terabyte is also not 1024 GB, because if you actually do the 2 to the power of 30, then you will find that there is a minute difference. There is about 7% difference, it seems. So if you say GB and GIB, the GIB is more accurate measurement of storage. That way, when you buy a 1 terabyte hard disk and you find that it only has 976 GB, you don't have to be surprised because they are using less precise metric. So Datasphere now started using this GIB and MIB. So the difference is not much. So you can still say how much is your storage space. You can still say 256 GB, but GIB seems to be the more accurate one. And I will add a link to today's note. You can go there and you can read about the exact differences. But yeah, when the last time we were discussing, someone told me it is 30 times more. Maybe they meant it is 2 to the power of 30. Which I was surprised. Okay, so if GIB is 30 times more, how can a Datasphere system has 238 GIB? So it is not the case. It is still very close to 256 GB only, but this is somewhat accurate. And the difference between the two measurements, GB and GIB, is in the magnitude of 7% or something like that only. It's not very huge. Yeah. So going back to the data builder. Now we talked about what are tables and what are views. Now let's see how we can create tables and views in Datasphere. So for tables, so we see only one type